Welcome everybody to the 2018 LTYA Annual All Members Meeting. Before we get started, really want to give a special thanks to High Five. They do a lot for LTYA. They let us host our board meetings here every month, and as a lot of you guys know, if you do your sport parties, you can come here, get a couple free pizzas, and then in hopes we spend a little money with the kiddos downstairs, which always seems to happen with my girls. So just a special thanks to them. Want to start off with recognition of a couple of guests that we have here tonight. We have, well, real quick, I'll introduce myself. I'm Jeff Johnson. I'm the current president of the board, serving for the last year in the president's role, last 2 years. I'm one of the nominees up for re-election, and I want to move over and introduce our special guest. We have Commissioner Gerald Doherty that's here. If you could stand up, please. We have Mayor Joe Bain. If you could stand up. And just for another 24, 48 hours. And then we have Mayor-elect Cindy Cox. We'll each have an opportunity to stand up and say a few words, give some updates on the Travis County Sports Complex and just some things that we're doing here in the community. But I do want to go through and introduce all the board of directors and the board members from each sport. So let me get my glasses. I'm well in my 40s. We have Ray Sullivan, who's currently the VP Brian, and Ray is our political head. I mean, he just, things that we don't think about, and when we try to think about, we're just so far off base in the political world. He is that guy that really keeps that going. Brian Chesney is probably still outside. You saw him if you voted. Devotes a lot of time behind the scenes during our meetings and does a phenomenal job. As well as Keith Witt, who is outside, who is our treasurer. They're out helping assist with the vote counts. Duncan Clough, are you here? Yep. I do not see Shiloh Newman. Did he show up? Or maybe he's running a little bit behind. And then we have Mark Doran here. So just to explain the breakdown of the board, right? So that's the board of directors, and these are board members that are not related to any specific sport, but for the overall good of the overall association. And then we have individual board members that oversee the individual sports, which they do a tremendous amount of work. Thomas Bryant, Josh Sanders is not here. He's in charge of baseball, does a phenomenal job. Kerry Whitman for softball. Philip Albright for football. Lee Dove for volleyball. And our newest member is Chris Cotrone. Are you here, Chris? Oh, there he is. He's now overseeing basketball. So that kind of gives you a breakdown of how the board is assembled. Every sport has their own representative at the parent board level. And going into the office staff, who does a tremendous amount of work, Scott Crump, Executive Director. Scott and I speak on a very, very regular basis. Not a day that goes by that we're not talking about something. So Whitney Miller was outside. And then you have Karina Jurovich. So Whitney Miller is the office administrator, office manager, and does a phenomenal job. They work around the clock. So whether it's the weekends, the mornings, the nights, they're on it, taking calls, answering emails. And then Karina Jurovich is also part-time and does a phenomenal job. So special thanks to all of those who are helping for the board and staff level. Thank you very much. So I'm going to stop here and just give our special guests an opportunity to speak, and we really appreciate you guys coming out. We'll start with Commissioner Gerald Doherty. He's going to give us an update on the Travis County, Western Travis County Sports Complex, which was a huge accomplishment in these last 12 months or so.
Thank you, Jeff and Scott. And I'll be short and sweet because, you know, we're moving on this thing. You all probably should give yourself a round of applause and congratulatory clap because y'all are the ones that really were very influencing with this vote that we had in November, because without the vote, we wouldn't have moved forward. And I would be remiss in not really giving a big shout out to Mayor Bain, because Joe was very instrumental in communicating to the public with the need for Lakeway buying the property. For 12 years now, I've looked for property to buy west of Mopac. I'm trying to find 50, 60 acres west of Mopac that you can afford, and that you can outbid somebody that wants the land more than you might for a sports complex is really, really difficult. So without you all doing that, it would not have been done. So congratulations. Here's where we are. We have chosen, Travis County has chosen the firm that is going to act as the general manager for building the complex. It is Stantec. Stantec is one of the largest companies of its sort in the world. They have a large presence here in town. At one time they were called Bury and Partners, and as a matter of fact, at one time I know that Bury came out and did some work for you all sort of in a preliminary fashion. So that really gave them the opportunity to come in and be very impressive with putting something together for Travis County. So here's what's going to happen. Probably by about the early part of July, mid-July, I'm going to be bringing 3 or 4 layouts to the board to weigh in on how we want to move forward. Obviously, what we're trying to do, you've got 70 acres, but you've got about 45 acres at the most. You might be able to squeeze 50 acres that you can really put the sports fields on. Obviously, one of the things that was part of the vote was that this is a park. So you have some park features as part of this that you also have to incorporate, into this 45 to 50 acres. So it will be, I'm excited about seeing it. I know that the board will be excited about seeing the different layout, but it will be primarily baseball / softball and soccer. That's what these 45 to 50 acres will be. So once we get the design chosen, then we will work feverishly on putting that together so that we can put together a package so that we can have some companies that will come in and we will choose the company that will do the construction on this thing. My goal is to be playing on this thing in the spring of 2020. It will take at least a good 12, and I'm thinking probably closer to 15 months to build it. So if we can start something by the end of the year, we will have a very aggressive schedule to get it done. But quite frankly, that is enough time to do sports fields. We do have a pretty decent piece of property. I mean, given the fact that we're going to utilize that 45 to 50 acres. But y'all, I'm as excited about this thing as you all are. My real goal is to make sure that the first pitch gets thrown out before I leave, which will be the end of 2020. People say you're not supposed to, Ray's probably said there saying, an elected official is never supposed to say that they won't be here after the end of 2020. The likelihood is that I will not be, but I will stay here until we get that first pitch, or the first ball kicked or whatever we're going to do with it. So that is the update. We are moving well on this project. I'm really pleased with where we are. You all sit back. I'll make sure that the board is fully apprised of what we're doing, and that will be the schedule. Before I hand over the microphone, anybody that's got a particular question that you might want to ask me?
When you're putting together those plans, are you basing it on utilization rate, how many baseball fields there are, soccer fields there are, etc.?
We kind of know that now, which is the reason why we probably will have one plan that will have more soccer fields on it, We'll have a plan that has more ball diamonds on it. We'll have one that'll show more equal play on both. And the board will have a big say in, we've really thought about what we want to do with this project, and we want to do more of this on this particular 45 to 50 acres. So the board is going to have a big, will have a lot of input as to which plan that we come up with. Taking into consideration that we will have a little bit of park stuff. The park stuff probably will pertain more to the area that's closer to the creek in some regard. But then you're going to have some common areas in the middle because, quite frankly, you need to have some space. And this thing is going to be actually, somebody said, are you going to really have restrooms? I said, yeah, we're going to have restrooms. But believe it or not, I suppose you all are so used to, restrooms being a real issue for you. But we are really looking forward to having one heck of a project, and I think one that people are going to really envy. Thank goodness that at the end of 2020 I might not be there because there are going to be some other folks in Western Travis County say, how do we get one of those? Because y'all are not the only ones believe it or not, in Precinct 3, there are at least 3 pretty major organizations that have youth sports to play in. But you all definitely are going to have the most outstanding one. So, but did that answer that?
Well, to me, in some ways, the board represents LTYA. So my question is more about, wouldn't those decisions be based on the utilization of the field?
Well, I think that Jeff.
Sorry, can you ask that question one more time?
So what I'm saying is, so you guys are going to have proposals brought to you for a decision. I was interested, as they're building out those different proposals, wouldn't they be basing them on, if we look at the numbers of kids using the different fields, wouldn't those?
Absolutely. We're looking at the growth, we're looking at the current program, current field situations, and availability of school fields in our current fields.
So our initial input was 60% flat fields. We call them flat fields because we can play anything on a flat field, whether it be flag football, tackle football, soccer, etc. 60% flat fields, 40% baseball. We'll see how the numbers play out and then what they come back and propose. Of course, the flat fields, we can break them down into multiple for the younger age groups, right? And then baseball is really the one thing that the school district can't help us with, right? So we have access to the school district fields and middle school stadiums, etc., and the high school track stadium for various flat field activity, but they can't help us with baseball because that's like a high school baseball field, which isn't age appropriate for us. So that was our input, but yes, there'll be a lot of thinking that goes into and analyzing numbers, etc.
Commissioner, can you talk a little bit about the scheduling and the priority access to the fields for a nonprofit youth sports organization in Southwest Travis?
Yeah, what Ray was wanting to make sure of is that you all would be in the know on the utilization and who gets to use this facility. This thing was set up for, unless you all have some catastrophic event so that the LTYA no longer exists and you start splintering up, this part of the world out here, you all will have the preferential treatment. You all will have, this thing has basically been built for LTYA. The county, or the city knows that, the county knows that, so there really should be no issue whatsoever, Ray, for who is going to play on this. Again, that was one of the things that in the contract that we had to get, we dealt with delicately, and we made sure that LTYA knew that you need to hold LTYA together, because if you don't, if you get into multiple organizations in the Lakeway and the Bee Cave area, then you put the county in a spot where we start having to take a lottery as to who can play on it. I don't think that that is very likely, and that is one really big reason why you all need to stay together as an organization. I don't really fear that's going to happen. I mean, ever since I've been out here, LTYA has been the organization that has made this deal work, and thank goodness for all you guys that are willing to put all this time in. So, hang tight, yeah.
Will the maintenance workers for this county complex, will they be county employees? And if so, will LTYA have some kind of input on that?
This is a county park, which is good for you, because you're not having to do the upkeep on it. Now, you will have a maintenance fee that you all pay on a yearly basis, but that's the same thing that we do in Northeast, and we do in Eastern Travis County, and that we do Southeast. But no, it will be the responsibility of the county to maintain it. Now, obviously, if there is something that's not being done the way that it needs to be done, then I fully expect that LTYA comes to us and say, can we make sure that this gets done this way? So I don't think we'll have a, I'm sorry?
Yeah, all turf.
All turf, and this is,
To that
you know, that's the nice thing, is this thing is gonna be all turf. Now, the one thing that we have learned is that you do have to put some water, even on turf. But, you know, you're not gonna have to put near the water that you'd put on, you know, natural turf. So I don't think that we'll have a problem with that. I mean, obviously, we're gonna be working like that with LTYA. So I'm gonna get out of here and turn this thing back over to you.
So I'd like to have Mayor-elect Sandy Cox come up, and then we'll give Mayor Joe Bain an opportunity to talk.
Well, hello everyone. I am really excited for this next chapter for LTYA. 10, 12 years ago, I was one of your coaches and also on the softball board. And Carrie Whitman and my daughter, they were wee high, and they played softball together.
Carrie too?
Yeah, Carrie too. Carrie was out on the field with us. He was teaching everyone how to pitch. But you know, it's I really believe our nonprofits in our area, and especially LTYA, they really set the culture and the tone for our community, and they're extremely important for our cities. And I love that Lakeway can claim LTYA because it has been such a great organization, and I'm a big fan, and we will continue to support you here in Lakeway. And so keep it short and sweet because Gerald doesn't know how to. But anyway, thank you so much, and I'm really, like I said, excited for this next chapter. Thank you.
And Mayor Joe Bain, who's
Well, heck, I
an
mean,
exorbitant
this may be
amount
the
of-
last time I get to speak to anybody, so. Thank y'all. Some history on this is kind of interesting, and I am so excited to see this getting done. When we started this, we bought this property. Have any of y'all looked at the property? It's really got a gate on it. You probably can't see it. It is a gorgeous piece of property. I'm thinking about moving out there because it's just a gorgeous piece of property. But the city of Lakeway went ahead and bonded this out and bought it. And our process was that we were going to buy the property, and then we were going to get BK and LTYA. We were going to throw in a little more money, and we were going to build the sports park. And we thought, we thought it maybe cost $3 or $4 million. Yeah, you know, it was just, we think like, oh man, this can't take much to build all this and move all this dirt. Well, it's now, the bond is $22 million now to do this. It's almost like a police station that is in the back of my mind. But but what happened was we got the county involved, and we really need, I'm sorry that Gerald left because we really need to give him a hand. We have worked with him for the last 5 or 6 years. So once we got the bond money, once we bought the property, we've been pushing him along to get involved in this, and he's been involved too, a great deal to get this going. And y'all need to know that he was the driving force behind this, and he made the difference. He's what's got this park going for y'all. And y'all need to give yourselves a hand too, because the people that went up to the meetings and spoke at the meetings made a huge difference. If you don't understand the political process, it's the vocal minority that get a lot of stuff done. And y'all were the vocal people that went up there and said, we want something, we need this, and the county listened. And thank y'all for that. That's all I've got. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to being at the opening of this thing.
And also real quick, Monty Parker was unable to come on. He had previous commitments, but he sends his regards and has already started engaging and working with us. All right, so as everybody knows, one of the important parts of this afternoon for meetings is also the election for 3 positions. And so what I'd like to do is take a quick minute. And Brian, do you want to? Brian just stepped up. I was going to have him introduce the certificate of candidates or also the nominees. So, Brian, do you have a quick moment?
Yes, I do.
I have a list right here.
All right. So I think this is right. Okay, the certification, I don't need your license. Thanks. So the candidates for the LTYA Board of Directors are Jamal Alsifer, Stacy Mickrit, Ray Sullivan, Melanie Lockhart, Jeffrey Johnson, Michael Masterfar, Mark Ish, Duncan Glow, Dirk Moore, and Kurt Beard.
All right, so we're at the point now where each of the candidates, if you'd like to come up and say a few words, and keep it to 2 or 3 minutes, please. We've got 10 of you, or I think 8 here. So, and then at the conclusion of the remarks, we'll make a last call for votes for anybody that hasn't voted yet, and then we'll go ahead and close the voting, and they'll be counting the votes downstairs. If I think Brian will tell you, if anybody wants to go down there with them, you're welcome to go down there when they count the votes. All right, Jamal, you're up to say a few words.
I'm sorry, I was just standing out there.
In the voting line, right?
Yes, that's right.
There you go.
That's right.
2 or 3 minutes, please.
I'm a lawyer. What makes you think I'll take more than 2 to 3 minutes? Hi, everybody. My name is Jamal Asfar, and I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you, everybody, for coming out. I also want to take a moment to thank everybody who's currently serving on the board and who has served on the board, because I know this is an enormous amount of time commitment. It's all on a volunteer basis, and I've been working with the board, friends with people on the board for the better part of 10 years, and I know it's a lot of work, and I really appreciate what y'all have done and continue to do. So a little bit about myself. I've been living in Lakeway for a little more than 10 years, and since almost the day I moved to Lakeway, I've been participating in LTYA sports. I have 3 kids at every age level, 7, 13, who just turned 13 today, and 15 years old, and I've been a volunteer coach for LTYA for 10 consecutive years. I think I'm on like my 23rd consecutive season, and that's not a joke. So I joke that I live at the Field of Dreams. In my private life, my non-LTYA life, which is probably my part-time job, I also am owner and partner in a national trial law firm. So I wanted to run because I'm continuing. Right now I coach 3 teams in LTYA, and I'm going to continue to do that, looks like, for the very foreseeable future. And I think it's important that when you're serving on the board, you actually are someone who can bring knowledge about what's going on the ground, how our decisions are affecting us on the fields, how they're affecting us as the kids, and I have a lot of interaction with parents because of my volunteer role as a coach as well. So I think I can bring that to the board and let them know, hey, here's what's happening today. Here are the issues that parents have today. And coupled with that, I hope to bring my experience serving on national boards in my legal practice, and also any legal help I can bring as well. I think will be useful to the board. But thank you guys for coming out. Thank you again to the board members, and I appreciate your vote.
First time. Stacy? Come on up, Stacy. There you go.
It's bright up here. Well, I think that everyone's pretty much voted by right now, but for those who don't know me, I think most people do. My son Marcus is 10 years old, and for each of his sports, I'm either the team mom or my husband's the coach. So we do football, flag football, 7-on-7, basketball, baseball, pretty much the gamut of those sports. I don't do soccer because he doesn't have the lateral moves, but we're trying. But I think that the reason I really want to do this board is that I really feel passionate about having our kids get what they need and getting the communication out there for what each of us just want to have our kids out there, have fun, learn about the sports, learn good teamwork, learn good sportsmanship. And I think that this community is great. Since we moved here, one of the first things I did was just jump right in. And I think that each of us does that. I think that this community is even better. And I have the time to do it. I've served on a board of Little League before, back in San Diego when we were building a new complex. I know how hard it is to get a new complex up and running. It took us 3 years, not 2. And there's always delays in the construction on that, and getting the individual city stuff going. And I do know some of those challenges firsthand. I have a lot of expertise in that. I think that's about it. I'm not as well spoken as the lawyers out there, so sorry.
My name is Ray Sullivan. Are you hearing that okay back there? I have been on the parent board for 2 years. By profession, I am a government and political and public relations consultant. I've run a 260-person state agency, so dealt a lot with personnel, budget issues in state government, highly transparent, highly scrutinized, and I actually feel like that has been a benefit. I have kids who've been in LTYA since 2011. Boy and girl, we've played volleyball, both genders of basketball, flag football, baseball. I feel like my contribution to the board has been not so much for a particular sport, but for the governance and health of the organization, trying to keep things fair when it comes to dealing with sports. I feel like I've been one of the more questioning voices on spending. We do not have unlimited wealth in this organization. We don't have debt. We have to be real careful with the way we spend our money as a volunteer organization, or else this thing gets off the rails in a hurry. The growth has been phenomenal, 6,500 kids, $1.6 million revenue. During my time, have seen a lot of improvements in community relations, I think, with as evident by the county and local officials coming here, getting the bond package passed with strong support out here. So regardless of what happens, I feel like I've left this organization in a better position. I would encourage you all, whether it's me or others, to continue to set priorities, continue to be fiscally careful, and continue to care about all the sports and try to set whatever individual sport biases you have aside for the good of the organization. That's what I've tried to do, hope to continue to do. Thanks.
Thank you. You didn't warn me about this last Friday. Hi, I'm Melanie Lockhart, and we have been here for about 5 years now. I have 2 kids, one in 7th grade who is phased out by age and by choice of sports, as Shannon will attest to. And then my 1st grader who wishes y'all played year-round sports so he could squeeze all the other sports he doesn't get to play in. I was approached by several moms to run for the board because they're like, you're the only mom that thinks like a guy, so that when all of us crazy moms call you, you can settle us down. But I think my real interest, as Scott will probably attest when I drug him out for 3 hours last Friday, is from the numbers. I'm a CPA by background. I have kind of retired from that as we have an excavation company, and that occupies my full time. But I think the biggest challenge is as we grow, and sorry, I've been at baseball since 6 a.m., so I'm kind of fading. As we grow, I think the biggest challenge is making the numbers work to maximize the dollars that come in, and I think it was very eye-opening when the board graciously allowed me to review everything last week. I kind of wanted to know what I was getting into, and so just to kind of see how the difference in sports and their cost and everything was very, very eye-opening versus all the rumors on the street with what's actually happening. So I appreciate y'all for that. So that's my main interest, is I think kind of like what Ray's lines, I bring more of a budget-minded input as much as I love sports, probably as much as anyone out there, and I hope this organization continues to stick together and grow, and I'm very excited about the new sports complex, especially since it's really close to my house. So I appreciate you all coming out. It was nice to see so many people care and get out here. So thank you.
I think I'll just say ditto to what Ray said. Just kidding. A little bit about myself. My family and I moved out in 2005, back to Austin, Texas. Started coaching in 2006 and realized it's fun, but it's not necessarily easy to corral little kids. I have two boys, currently 8 and 13. I've coached multiple sports at the same time throughout the year through different sports. I think my biggest challenge was to think I could help coach a fall baseball team, 2 basketball teams, and winter flag football at the same time. I won't do that again. My oldest son is now in the middle school, plays sports as well as my little guy. So aside from coaching over the last 10 years, the last 2 years I've had the privilege of serving on the LTYA board. The last year as function as the president, and I can tell you it's a lot of work. There's a lot of challenges. I feel like we've made a lot of good strides in the last couple of years. I think Scott can say we spend about 30 hours or 40 hours a week, whether it's on the phone, email, or in person, because that's what it takes. You know, we have a responsibility, and if you have the ability, how are you going to respond? And everybody on this board right now has put forth a lot of effort, and you know, some of the goals that I committed to early on in 2016, I think we've accomplished. There's some that are in the works, regardless of how the election goes. Like Ray said, I feel like that I definitely have put forth my best effort, and we have a great group of folks right now helping contribute to that, to include Scott, Whitney, and Karina, who are very essential in making this happen. Financially, we're sound. As we grow, we'll always have the challenge of making sure that we're balancing out and we have the proper surplus and we're right on revenue. So we'll go into a little bit more about what we've done in the last 12 months and what we're looking for in the future. So I don't want to steer off base, but Michael Nessafar, if you're here. Michael, you're up. Come on up. And again, just thankful to have this opportunity that I've had the last 2 years, Michael.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Michael Nassafar. I'm sorry, I was playing darts with my daughter out there. So. 2 to 3 minutes. I've got about 20 seconds. I'm thankful to be able to run for the parent board. I didn't know it was so competitive, and I'm just thankful for everybody coming out here and showing your support. So thank you.
Mark-ish, are you guys?
Yeah. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes here. I don't know a lot of you in the room. So thankful my wife and my 2 kids are here because they're 5 and 7 and it's past their bedtime. But they really wanted to see their dad up here, and it means a lot to me to have them here. So my wife and I, we moved out here 6 years ago. I grew up all over California. I spent a few years in Texas as a kid, Colorado. And sports is really what kept me kind of grounded, really helped me develop as a person. You know, moving around a lot as a kid, basically moving 7 times in 8 years in an 8-year span, really what kept me really focused in and feeling a part of the community was joining different teams. And I played lots of different sports growing up. It's much different back when I grew up than it is today, where some kids find a sport they love and they play it all year round. I didn't have the opportunity to play it all year round, but there's some goods and bads with that. So fast forward 6 years ago, we moved out here. I moved out here for a company called Trigger Point Performance, which is a very well-known sporting goods company that was just acquired by M+ a few years ago. We do recovery tools, foam rollers and things of that nature. I've been in the sporting goods business for 15 years. Started at Whammo, running their sporting goods division. Moved out here, like I said, for Trigger Point. They were purchased, and I went to go work for a company out of Tulsa, Oklahoma called GoFit, so in the fitness industry. And then in February 2017, I was hired to take over the sales and marketing business development for a company called Acroball Technologies, which is based right outside of Ann Arbor. In my daily life, what I do is I work with some of the major brands in the U.S. And actually on the global level, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. I work with all the governing bodies of many sports, such as U.S. lacrosse, U.S. field hockey, U.S. water polo. I work with the NFL, the NBA, the MLB. we have a huge range, and what we do as a company is dental protection. So I'm in the protection. I'm not really a finance guy, although I do run a lot of numbers. I'm much more into sales and marketing, but I'm all about protection of kids. I'm all about, as our community grows, to continue to look at how we're going to be able to make this happen for our kids. And I too, like others have said, really appreciate what the board and the standing board members have done, because this is a great community and we all live here because of this community. I just know that for my background, what I've done, and something that I didn't mention, which is in my bio as well, is I played soccer growing up. I played baseball, basketball. I went to school on a soccer scholarship where I went to San Diego State, and we played in the Pac-10, Pac-12. So I've been through the gamut. I've gone through the college recruiting process. I've started and coached professionally for the San Ramon Football Club out in the San Francisco Bay Area, and started the Tri-Valley Soccer Club, which is also in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I've been parts of organization, both as a paid coach, as a volunteer coach for my daughter and my son, as a member that helped build the Tri-Valley Soccer Club, which is one of the most successful soccer clubs in Northern California today, and then in my professional life today. So I know that I'm the right person. I don't know if I know enough people to get elected, but I will be back if I don't. But that's all I've got. Thank you guys for the opportunity to speak, and thanks.
I have a 14-year-old, so I'm going to channel my inner millennial and use my cell phone for notes. Sorry. I've got a background in wearable technology, so in connected devices. I'm currently the head of medical technologies and medical systems for TDK. I spent about 10 years working with Nike, so I brought products like Nike Plus, Nike Fuel Band, Nike Sport Band to market. So if nothing else, I want to talk to Mark and make this a marketing opportunity. So that's really what we're all about. I just a few things about myself. Here we go. As far as my experience I'm an LTYA lifer. I've got 3 daughters, ages 6, 10, and 14. We are very balanced in the sports that we've been involved in. We've been involved in soccer, we've been involved in volleyball, we've been involved in basketball. Couldn't say enough about those sports. They've really brought a lot in terms of teaching our kids the meaning of competing, which is a really big deal. I don't know if anybody in this community has noticed, but we are a slightly competitive community. So, to do that, I think that you have to do it the right way. And we've always tried to push the lessons of integrity, of enthusiasm, and of confidence. We've also been extremely involved in cheer. My wife, Amber, who is a phenomenal designer, who's also responsible for some of the great graphics that you're seeing tonight. She's very big on cheer, very big in teaching females the importance of competing and competing the right way. As a member of the LTYA board, which I've been for the past year, I've had the privilege to drive the rebranding effort. We're really proud of what's been done there. I think it looks great. I think it's something that's going to live for the next 5, 10 years plus. I really think we've done a great job there. I've been involved in driving the ethics committee, and I think that you learn a lot about your organization by focusing on the complaints that people have about the organization. You know, I will say this about LTYA, and it's probably going to be the last thing I'm going to say. I think that we focus, as a parent board, on the right things. I think that we're focusing on safety. Every meeting, there's something said about safety. We focus on concussion protocols. We focus on CPR. We focus on anyone should be kicked out of the field because there's lightning within a 30 to 40 mile radius knows exactly what I'm talking about. We really do focus on safety. Beyond that, we focus on the financials. We are finally at a spot where we are financially stable. Anybody that understands the history of this organization knows what a big deal this is. That's extremely important. And then lastly, we're focusing on the facilities. And granted, the facilities are a work in progress, but the progress has been immense. If you look at what's been going on at the Field of Dreams, it's looked better than it ever has. We have bathrooms, we've got lights. We're doing a great job there. You're going to see enormous improvement this summer, and I think we're about to hit on that when LTYA gets turf fields. And obviously, and then in 2020, when we get the new fields, you're going to see even more. So my whole point on that is that the LTYA parent board is there to focus on putting first things first. And I think they've done a great job of that. I think it's that logo of "It All Starts Here," that's where we all come in. That's where we make this a much better place to be. That's where we improve on all of our policies of sport. That's where we really drive a premium sport experience. So that's it.
Thanks, Duncan. So, Dirk and Kirk both withdrawn, I guess. So that brings the candidates' comments to the close. And I want to thank all the candidates. Thank you for what you're already doing for LTYA. Thank you for volunteering for the board. We'll close the voting now, and Keith and I will go downstairs and we'll count the votes. If you want to duck your head in and see that we're counting votes, that's fine. Just ask that you give us some space and time to focus on it, get it right. Don't ask any questions or ask for any partial counts or anything. And then we'll be back up as soon as possible with the results. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everybody. So if you haven't voted, please go vote. We'll give you a couple minutes. I'm sure most everybody has already. Before Jeff gets into some of the presentation, I'd like to thank everybody for volunteering to be part of the board. I know 3 people are going to win tonight, and I hope the other 5 people, plus Dirk and Kurt, will find a way to be involved at a sport level. Last year, there were a number of people that ran as well. We were able to capitalize on that and have them come and participate in the various sports. So please, we have very qualified candidates, and it would be great to see all 10 of these people serving the kids in some capacity.
Okay, so talking a little bit about financial, if there's any specific questions about the finances, I'll probably pull Scott out. He's got his head wrapped around the numbers better than anybody I know. So what you're seeing here is a year-to-year financial review as of today, so to speak, right, as of the month of May. So you can see in 2013 we had $309,000 cash on hand, and then as you go up through the years to today of May of 2018, we're up to $616,000 cash. So you kind of see how, a little up and down, depending on what we're doing with the Field of Dreams, depending on the sports, the growths, and some of the needs, and also some of it is the timing of some of the invoicing that we've been getting with the ISD. So financial review. So likewise, starting at 13, I'm not going to read through all of it. Everybody can take a quick look. But one thing we do want to note is, like I said before, that the ISD used to bill us every 6 months, and now we're doing it on a quarterly basis. So the numbers do kind of shift as of today. And then also, down in the asterisks, we have a write-off of $47,000, and that was efforts and money spent towards the sports complex, the county complex that we had to invest in for engineering and other efforts to figure out where we're going to go, right? And we're obviously fortunate enough that the county picked up that project for us. Okay, so right now this kind of tells you what we have as a surplus year to year as well. So starting in 2014, we had total revenues of $371 year to date with a surplus of $88K. And then again, if you go all the way up to the top, we have revenues as of today of $649K, a surplus of $26K. And again, a lot of that has to do, the reason that's down is because of the $50K that we've already paid into the ISD that we normally wouldn't pay until June. Player registration is pretty phenomenal. Over 6,500 players have registered for a sport or several sports in the past 12 months. What we have up here is our rec program of some of our larger sports. The balance of those players, if you add that up, it's about 4,500. The balance of those players are in select programs. So very impressive, and it just tells you where we are with our children and how many children we're having. Right? Try to throw a little humor in there. The reason why I don't do stand-up. So here's something that we could talk about that we're proud of over the last 12 months. So again, it's it's not a bragging right for any particular individual. Just we want to express to all the members what we've been working on with your money and for your children, and then we'll get into what's in the plan for the next 12 months. So we talked about the Travis County Sports Complex. We've talked to Duncan Clough and his wife Amber have launched the rebranding efforts. Did a phenomenal job. Moved it along very quickly, and we hope everybody likes them as much as we do. One of the first initiatives that I worked on, sitting in the board meetings, the biggest complaint, one of the biggest complaints was the fields, right? No grass, dirt, dust, holes, just ongoing issues. So one of the first efforts I was involved in was trying to figure out why do our fields look like they look, and what can we do to improve them. That was a commitment that I made at the very beginning. And so with the assistance of the board, Scott was very instrumental. We pulled in professionals from UT and Texas State rather than us trying to figure out what's best. The best approach was to pull in the experts. And just to kind of give you an example, a sprinkler head, if you didn't know this, needs about 50 to 55 PSI to get that nice spray pattern. We had about 20 to 25. So we spent the better part of a year understanding exactly what we needed to do to make sure we made the right decisions with your money to make sure that we improve the fields as we hoped. So doing that is we upgraded the existing well. I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen a big silver holding tank between the two soccer fields. We put another well there, and along with that is we put the state-of-the-art variable boost pumps, so you have that spray pattern that you need. And so that's why you see the fields like the way they are today. We also employed another company to come out and spray the fields and do it on a regular basis. And what this did is the current company that's maintaining the fields, this is an extra set of eyes. He doesn't have to worry about the chemicals when the spraying, but also we have another set of eyes who can help us if they see something that doesn't look right. So between that and juggling playing time on the fields, because your fields need rest, we beat up on their soccer guys quite a bit, but we said if you'll trust us, we'll get you better fields that the best fields that we could possibly get, and we achieved that. So that goes down to significantly improve the turf conditions on the soccer fields. I think it holds true for Cary, for softball, and for the baseball. It just helped all the way around. The soccer fields take the most abuse, as you can imagine. So, one of the other complaints was the porta potties. Why don't we have restrooms? And it seemed, when we had an engineering outfit do a study, came back and told us, well, for about $600,000, we can put a restroom up by the concession stands. It blew my mind. And so I think a lot of people don't realize to be able to be compliant with a CDB cave, we can't just get a mule building that looks really cool and throw it up there. There's a lot that we have to do to comply. There's LUEs. And so in the interim, what we thought about was why not purchase a mobile restroom trailer. If any of you guys have been out by the baseball field, you'll see one there. It's air conditioning, so in the summertime, we'll probably have a lot of people hanging out. Air conditioning, it's got stalls, water to wash our hands, paper towels. Even more importantly, we also made sure it's ADA compliant, which we're working through getting the ramp installed. So if the grandparents or anybody that's in a wheelchair has the ability to have a proper restroom. We only ordered one We got a lot of grief at first from the soccer guys, but we said, hey, you know, we don't know how this is going to work out. Let's get one, let's vet it out, let's see how it works, and then we'll order a second one. And so we learned a couple things right away. When you go in the men's restroom, Scott says, what's wrong with this picture? I'm like, nobody's using it? I'm not sure. He goes, look at the urinals. And, you know, they're all for men, right? So we're like, oh, crap, you know, you got a lot of little kids. So simple things like that, changing stations that we, diaper changing stations, things that we now know that we will order with the next restroom trailer that's going to go between soccer field 1 and 2 and 3. We even had music playing. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Do you have an ETA for that?
What's that?
For our soccer bathrooms, do you have an ETA for that?
I think it's, I mean, it takes about 4 months from the time we order them. So I think the goal is over the next couple of months to put that together and to get them ordered. Now, I will say we were supposed to have, the one we have now was supposed to arrive in December, didn't arrive until February. The manufacturer was late, so we ordered, so my business is public transportation. And so I work with, you know, Capital Metro, for example, would be a customer. So we do a lot of business with Forest River. I reached out and said, hey, we need help for the kids. And they said, we'll knock off 10 grand. We'll build it exactly like you want it. And we just said, okay, we think this is how we want it. So we will get another one ordered. Scott put out a memo too. The best thing about these is if you ever rented one of these trailers, it's like $1,000 a day, right? It's crazy. So the end game is to get permanent restrooms. We may always have to have one over by soccer because of just the way the water runs for now, but we feel like we can sell one of them or both of them and still get a lot of value back. So, you know, at the end of the day, we'll be able to utilize them and recoup a lot of that money to put towards other projects. Let's see, well, you know, the fields was always a challenge at first. I mean, I think I spent several hours a day at the fields. It just became a habit. And fields would look great. We get the call, somebody's doing donuts on your fields. I mean, it happened numerous times, right? And you know, we put telephone poles up to try to, you know, do a perimeter. And we just decided, you know what, the best way to do it is to add gates, be able to secure the fields, keep people out at night. If you ever go back behind baseball field number 1, and you know, you'll see the little pile of beer cans that, you know, face it, there's teenagers and young adults are going to find a place to hang out. We just don't want it to be an LTYA because we have neighbors, and it just doesn't need to happen in our park. So we installed that. Eventually, we'll make them automatic. That will help with making sure they're open and closed at the appropriate time. Another project we did was we had a remote control for the existing field lights. So lights is probably the most touchiest subject of all when it comes to the fields and when it comes to the city of Bee Cave and the homestead. So if the light is on, what is it, 9:30, Scott, is our shut-off time? If it's on at 9:31, the calls start coming in, right? And so what we have now, we have limited control, but if there's a complaint, we can, Scott, or numerous of people can get on their phone, check the lights, turn them off, or if they shut off, turn them on, or whatever the situation is. So technology is really something we're striving for, to make use of technology. And so a couple more things. New roof and paint on the field house. Probably didn't notice it because we kind of made it look exactly like what it was, so we didn't get complaints from the city. And by the way, we have a very good working relationship with the city, but there's a lot of things that code of compliance, if you start changing the look of things, it may trigger other items. So we try to make it look exactly like it was. The roof was leaking, put new garage doors. Where's Thomas at? One of the things I really, really wanted, and just I was so involved in some of the other projects, was how do we get Wi-Fi on the field? How do we get cameras on the field? So you guys and your grandparents can watch your kids play while we're traveling or while your grandparents are in other states. Thomas put forth a lot of effort. Mark Doran was a part of that effort. And if you haven't noticed, the entire Field of Dreams is now Wi-Fi and is free. So that was step 1. And that allowed us to utilize a lot of the technology that we're talking about that require Wi-Fi, whether it's the sprinkler systems or the lights. And eventually, you know, the idea is, let's start with softball, is to have, a camera up above home plate, just like baseball, that you can log in, watch your kids play a game, or your grandparents can. And then the next step is we already have one camera on soccer field 1. We're kind of doing a beta test, and Thomas has been and Mark have been very instrumental in that. So another initiative, again, light's a tough situation for us because we need proper light for the kids to play safely, especially if you imagine baseball or even soccer. The older kids, as they're running, collisions. And so we did a test that recently is putting visors on certain lights to try to reduce scope light for the neighbors. And we've started working more hand in hand with the city. So we've developed over the last couple of years a good working relationship with the staff at the city of Bee Cave. We're now working with the council. Monty Parker met with us recently. A great guy, big heart. He wants to help us. And he wants to make sure we're not going down a path that's not going to be well received. So, sporting programs. So, real quick, wrestling is, which I thought was pretty cool. The high school said, hey, we don't have any kind of a feeder program for our wrestling team. Like, we just get guys that are green and maybe they've had some martial arts experience, some jiu-jitsu or something. Can you help us? Scott rolled that out really quick. We ended up with 32 kids who went out and did like a trial run, and it was well received. And again, that's us working with the ISD on a regular basis. Select basketball, we did a fall 3v3 basketball tournament. And what was really cool about that, we recognized in 7th and 8th, and we're going to look at the high school too, that if you have kids that are in middle school, there might be 80 kids trying out for 20 to 24 spots for basketball. You have 50 kids, 40 to 50 kids at Lake Travis Middle School or Hudson Bend Middle School, and just the 8th grade that didn't make basketball and love the sport. Same with the 7th grade. So I said, Scott, what do you think? We rolled this out for the young kids. What do you think about rolling this out for the 7th and 8th graders? And Scott, would we roll it out in like 2 weeks or so? 2 weeks. We had about 6 to 8 teams. The coolest thing is no coaches allowed. Kids coach themselves. They pick their own teams up to 5, and they had a great time. One team was just getting the socks beat off them. They're laughing and having a good time on the court. And then through this, I'm watching some of these kids. I'm like, how did that kid not get picked for the team, right? Well, you only need so many centers and forwards and guards. And that kind of rolls over into the TWE program, which is the select basketball program. And we kind of started pushing some of the kids that way. So Academy Soccer was another big initiative. Thanks to soccer, to Thomas, and all those guys for their efforts. And just additional camps and training clinics. So again, this is some of the initiatives that we've been working through for the last 12 months and into this year. So what are we doing for the next 12 months, or what's the plan for the next 12 months? So some of the items, I'll just read through it really quickly. 40-year celebration, not sure if you're aware, but as of 2018, this is our 40th year with LTYA. So we wanted to have a celebration event. We're looking at having one at the Field of Dreams for the families. We're looking at having another one at Rough Hollow. That's a more formal event, maybe it could be a little bit of a fundraiser. We'll do an effort to do the rebranding, release the brand officially. And we were fortunate that I had a colleague of mine who does production events and managements all over the world, but he went through the LTYA program. He goes, hey, I'll do this for you guys, no cost. So that's coming up September 8th. We talked about the additional restroom trailer between soccer fields 1 and 2. We talked a little bit about having internet-enabled cameras on the fields for remote viewing. We touched a little bit about acquiring the necessary LUEs for water and wastewater, which is important, one, for having permanent restrooms, but without talking too much about the concessions, in order to do more with our concessions, we need water. And even though we have well water, to have a commercial well water, the difference is maybe 25 to 30,000 for a well, and then commercial is about 150,000. So we knew the answer was not to go the commercial well route. but to acquire the necessary LUEs so we can then move forward and try to get water and wastewater to move. It's a step in the right direction. Scott's been working feverishly on that. And that ties into the improved concessions, working with baseball to figure out, I mean, we've all been there. Kids didn't get a chance to eat, they're starving, your other kids are starving, can't we just have a hot dog, pizza, or chicken nugget? So we're doing some things, we're looking at it in steps and stages. If we do too much at once, we don't think we'll get enough traction to get to where we need to do, so we're prioritizing some of these projects. And exploring additional options for the parking lot and traffic flow. I think everybody's been in the challenge at the Field of Dreams. If you're trying to go out the back way of soccer, trying to get around baseball, it can get a little bit tedious. So we're working on some ways of trying to improve that and to make the experience as best as possible. Okay, I'm going to read through these real quick. We're going to go read sport and what that sport has either accomplished, will be accomplished this year or moving forward. So soccer created a new successful academy program. Academy is a step between rec and select. If you don't want to pay that big dollar, or maybe your kid's not quite there to select level, this is how you get there, and soccer's done a really good job of that. They're continuing to build select soccer. They just signed an agreement with Steam. If you know anything about soccer, the ECNL affiliation is significant. I'm learning more and more about soccer, which is a significant sport. I mean, they all are, but soccer is by far our largest sport for kids play account. Improve overall communication across the fields, across the sports, sorry. And I don't know if you've seen it, but we started doing it in the sports surveys. That was something I thought gives us an opportunity to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And it's anonymous unless you put your contact information in there. And we've gotten some pretty good feedback. And most importantly, we wanted you guys to know that we really do care about the experience and we want to improve it where possible. So we talked about the continue to improve facilities, field conditions, and approvals for new lights and bathrooms. One item that we're working on aggressively right now is if you play soccer or been down to soccer field 2 and 3, we have generator lights, portable lights, and we're working on an initiative to have permanent lighting. We're looking at LED technology, keep some light pollution down, but really provide the best possible experience, not just for the rec kids, but the lights that we're looking at, we can go at any level. Because you have to have at least 30 watts of candle if you start getting up into high school and even college. So that's something we're working on. Baseball. Record number of players this spring. I did have it right. So I was telling a friend of mine who's a big baseball guy, 500 plus players in 8U and younger in the spring of 2018. That's phenomenal. That's a lot of kids, a lot of kiddos. A strong, committed volunteer group. Baseball does a great job. Softball continued their pitch initiative for girls, stable base of 240 plus girls each season. 2 terms win their mid-season tournaments. Kerry does a great job. He's back there, probably working on softball stuff now, but does a great job. Volleyball. So we have Leaf has come on volleyball. Great relationship with the LTYA coaches, I think.
Jeff,
yes.
Who is the coach of Lake Travis High School volleyball?
Come on
in, say hi.
She's here. That's why I was kind of laughing. Kind of has a good relationship. She's sitting right next to them. They have my understanding they have a good relationship. You can fill me in afterwards, but and you know, serve as mentors in both the spring clinic and fall team season. My only real experience with volleyball is I lived in Florida. I did a 2-man beach team, and we played every day. But I know it's like any other sport, it's great, it's necessary. Great relationship with Austin Junior Volleyball that provides evaluations and clinics during the fall team seasons. And great resources for volunteer coaches, coaches clinic, manuals, mentor from LTYSD. I can't emphasize enough the relationship that we have with the LTYSD and how helpful they are and how it really really fine-tunes our program, and we think is why we're so successful, because the parents and kids understand playing this program, you're playing into the same program as a middle school and high school. These really cool game jerseys. See that equitable play time being structure of the team formation and game rotation structure, which I think is very important. So good job with that, guys. Basketball. We talked a little bit about that. With the 3v3 program, we talked about it. We established a select basketball offer with Adrian Thomas. And Adrian, if you don't know him, I've heard nothing but accolades about this guy. Does a phenomenal job. Scott put that program together with him, and so we have a phenomenal select program that's starting up, and one of the best coaches in the area that's leading that effort. He was sought after by several programs, or several associations and different programs here in the area, but chose to come with us because of what we have to offer, what we believe in. So we talked about the 3v3 program, and we added additional summer camps and advanced training. So as you can see, we definitely don't sit idle with our sports year to year. We're constantly trying to improve and do more. Football, tackle registration, up 20% in fall of 2017. 550 plus kids playing flag football in the fall and winter. Spring 2018, 7v7 registrations more than doubled. I was out at the tournaments for the 7v7, and we had utilized every single field at the high school. It's phenomenal. There's just teams everywhere rotating around. It was so cool seeing all the different age groups out there. And then of course we have cheer, which is a big program, and they're supporting flag football, I believe 7v7 as well, Philip, correct? And registration is up 50% for cheer from 2018 to 2017, which is absolutely phenomenal. This is all important information, and we'll do questions at the end if that's okay. 2018 challenges. Field space constraints, where to put all these players. We're looking in the future as the new Travis County Sports Complex to help, and then we rely heavily on the ISD, like Travis ISD, to help us with field space. And they do a great job of working with us, and gym space, sorry. Let's see, traffic and parking flow parking and traffic flow at the Field of Dreams. We're touching on that. Again, it's one of those projects that we recognize we need to do something, and we do have a few thoughts in mind for that. New local competition was pretty significant. We've all seen HCI. It's a phenomenal facility. We think that we have experience with the coaching, with the program, with the staff, with administration, with the ISD, which is why we have not seen a significant drop in any sport. We're going to keep doing what we do, and we think that HCI will probably be really big for doing a lot of tournament games and a lot of training camps. Is probably what they'll end up focusing on. So let's see, I think these are Scott's words. We've grown so big, there is a general lack of understanding of who and what we are. We are a volunteer-centered private entity. And that's true. Every one of us, except for our office staff, is volunteers. Myself, all of your board members, all the commissioners on the sport, and every sport has their own board, and every one of those guys and girls are volunteers, and it's phenomenal how many people step up and help out. Player growth outpacing volunteer growth. We're seeing that. We're working on different, trying to utilize different resources to help us keep up with the demand. And as Scott said, I think Brian had said, there's 10 people that came out tonight for 3 positions. And I hope whoever doesn't get elected, and it could be myself as well, that we continue to participate for the new guys in town. I mean, the vision is to have a couple of committees where you can head a committee so you feel like you're really a part and you're putting forth your effort and you have your taste and your edge and your flavor on it. So that's something that we're looking at, and that'll hopefully help with the volunteer growth. So I encourage everybody here, if you don't make the board this evening, to please stay with it. Don't give up. Get engaged. Be a part of it. Own something and make it your own. There's ways to do that. Sports delivered by all volunteer boards with the help of the office, not the other way around. Participation, functionality, operating procedures for volunteer sport boards. So these are some things that we're looking at. Participation, functionality, functionability, and operating procedures for volunteer sport boards is we feel is important to make sure all the different sports are functioning. I mean, they all have their challenges and they're all unique and different, but we want to make sure that there's enough consistency there that people recognize that it is an LTYA sport and that we can all follow the processes and help where necessary. Initiatives, safety, as Duncan mentioned, we talk about safety at every single meeting. Physical responsibility, we talk about that every meeting. Scott and I talk about that probably every week. And understanding if we see any dips or increasing, why is that? What's happening? To make sure that we understand that it is something that should be happening. Continue to work to find creative solutions for field space. And we have the new county sports complex on Big Creek Road. We've talked about that several times. So some of the initiatives that we haven't talked about is improving our delivery of the sports by the volunteers. And it's really difficult because you don't want to get upset at a volunteer if they're not doing what they're supposed to do. You want to try to give them a tool to help them or give them some resources. So it's a challenge. I mean, everybody has a job, everybody has families, everybody has family emergencies. So one way that we think we can do this is by launching utilization of the Blue Sombrero mobile app. I've been using it for the last month. You can download it on your iPhone or your Android, and literally, I open up the app. I can see what my son's practice times are, when their game times are, and I can see it for all the sports. So if you're doing multiple sports at a time or have multiple kids, it's awesome. Just open it up. I don't have to log in and look for it. I don't have to look at text messages. So we'll roll out some information on that. It's active now. We just need to make sure that all the sports are inputting the data. It's only as good as the data going in. And we think this is going to be a good tool to help communicate and help the coaches who do a tremendous job already. Just another resource and tool for them. Improve customer service in a volunteer-centric organization. We talked about the surveys. As we start getting feedback from the surveys throughout the year, we'll find ways to respond and try to understand what that data means and see what we need to do. Increase parent involvement. Improve coaching tools. So one thing that we've talked about, regardless of the sport, is there's a lot of times we don't have enough coaches. Whether it's basketball, baseball, I think football, we tend to have enough coaches, but that's not necessarily true either, because I know sometimes it's a challenge. So one thing that we looked about is trying to identify paid coaches to have on staff, a couple of them for each sport. So if you have a team or division does not have a coach, we have the ability to dispatch a coach. And a lot of times what happens with those teams, depending on the sport, you'll usually end up with a lesser experienced group of kids. So no matter what, they may not win a lot of games, but we want to make sure that they get taught the game and they learn skill set and have a good experience. So if we have these coaches on retainer and we have enough coaches, what does that mean? Well, that means that we can take these coaches and send them around to different teams who may not have experienced coaches and help them with clinics specifically. And we're looking at this not just from a professional level, but we're also looking at this from a high school level. Obviously not paid, but to get kids out that are basketball players, volleyball players, football players, trying to find out who wants to come on the field and help out, because there's a connection no matter what we think and how good we think we communicate with our kids. High school kids can do what we can't do, right? It's pretty awesome to watch. So enhance our community-centric feel and position in the community. Right now we're working with that with the city of BK. We're pretty excited. Monty Parker is just, so far, it's just been a really good guy. He's kind of a cool dude too, but he really wants to help us out and guide us. And we've never really had a great like I say, a great relationship. We just haven't had much relationship with the city council, which makes it really hard when we try to seek approval for improvements. We need to know how to navigate and how to present, and we feel like they're going to help us do that. So we're pretty excited about that. Continue our quest with Positive Coaching Alliance, and that kind of rolls back into some of the things that we're talking about, not just from the ability to coach a sport, but the ability to mentor the kids and to make a positive experience for the kids. That's super important. There's a lot of responsibility when you take on a coaching position. So that's it. This is a great logo, the main logo, and I think you guys saw some of the other logos that Duncan put out. Any questions? Yes.
I know the biggest thing, and soccer kind of touched on it, but I think it's a little deeper, and I spoke with Scott last year. It's been an ongoing, and it's caused a lot of rifts. I think it's kind of across the board as in regards to our refereeing, and I agree with you when it comes to utilizing high schoolers, middle schoolers to help teach our kids because they do respond, but when it comes to utilizing them to manage the game, we run into issues when you are using solely middle schooler and high schoolers, especially once you are past academy level. You know, even at rec, we know we're in Lake Travis, we're a very competitive area. That even soccer, I believe they said baseball has usually an adult and a kid, but soccer it's not that way. And this year, and we have parents get upset. Yes, Mama Bear, I'm sorry if it continues and they don't catch it and my daughter gets hurt. I'm probably going to say something in a very nice, respectful way, but other programs come to us and they just think we're a joke because of it. Ending games 5 minutes early, not calling things, then their parents are running after. So if you don't manage it, and especially when you're spending this much time and you are getting at a higher level, it's causing rifts. So that's where, I pretty much every parent I've spoken with, it's the common core, especially for soccer. I can't speak to other programs because my kids don't do them anymore. But not even just from a soccer board as a whole. Have we thought about that? Are we doing something? Because I know it's one of our number one problems with soccer. We've done such an amazing job with fields, with coaching, etc. But that's one.
Yeah, I'm going to let Thomas, who's the president
So
of
over the
soccer,
summer, we're going to be hiring a new referee coordinator. So Andy's the current coordinator, but he's going to be taking a more permanent role doing select coaching. So as we go into the summer, we'll be opening up a rec to replace him. So he is paid for that job and does other things within the organization. So we're looking at getting a referee coordinator. It's not a fun job. If you know anybody that wants to sit at the field all day Friday night, all day Saturday, and most of the day on Sunday, let me know. They're not easy to come by. Generally, they are somebody who was a ref as a kid, probably played soccer. They're 45 to 65 years old, and they're okay with doing that sort of thing. But the bottom line is we're going to look for a referee coordinator that can basically sit there, can do things like center ref for the more important games, but they could train and be that person to go to so that we do have people there. The other thing that we're going to be doing, and this goes to parents, referees are children by and large. That probably will never change, and that is a big pool of resource. It is incredibly hard to get a 25, 35-year-old person to come out to the fields for $40 to $50 an hour. It's just hard.
How are all these other programs doing it though? Because they are, and we're trying to we're bringing in programs.
Their select programs start at $2,100 a year. We start at $1,500, so they can pay significantly more for that sort of thing, and that's what you get when you go to $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a year for select soccer, for example.
We all asked, because I know we're already paying, so why not?
Not everyone's willing to pay that, and frankly, I'm not prepared to pay for that or offer that to people, because with that sort of money, when you pay something like that, there's a expectation of what you're going to get. And frankly, we're still a relatively young club. We've been here for 5 or 4 years, and we're growing and we're learning about the club and how it runs and how the community works within that. But part of that is, all right, we're going to slowly increase fees as we can offer more services, get better coaches, get better refs. It's a growing pain with a young club, and we hear you. I think it was very evident in the survey that we sent out to all the parents that that's a big issue. We're going to address it in the off season, but come fall, I still expect it to be somewhat of an issue. But we do have a plan in place to address that specifically for soccer. Now, I can't speak for any other sports, but for soccer, that is kind of our plan.
And just to be clear, was it mostly for the academy and select, or for rec as well?
All the above.
Okay. So I know rec, I kind of see that as, because I've been around the two where we're playing games and we have the high school kids coaching. But I think we could take the information back. I know the surveys just came out. We'll certainly go back over and see what we can do to improve the experience. I don't want to make any promises, but I think it's important to
Well, it's great,
to
like
talk
basketball.
about
My
it.
son did basketball, there was always an adult there with the kid. So they could mentor them and they would stop, be like, okay, actually, this is what should have happened. And if the parent is upset, because it's always going to happen, you have an adult there to help manage the game. If you don't have that presence, it just gets out of control and fast, and it keeps on happening. So I love that we're bringing someone on to watch, but 1,500 kids, lots of games, we're bringing more and more on. It's not fixing it, and it's
more than
yeah.
okay. That's why the numbers are where they are. Okay, there's rec kids, there's academy kids, okay, and there's the select kids, okay. So it's got to be what, 2,500 for soccer. It's really 2,500 kids.
I think what's important is that we take this information back and discuss it as a board.
That's all. I
will
just
say that I think that
the soccer board.
totally, and Brandon and I have had conversations about this for sure, very respectful. I think that the feedback portion is entirely extremely important. Like, please take advantage as a parent to let your families be known and any concerns that you have, let them know, because these are important discussions that need to be had. Typically, I would feel like it's going to be a little bit more productive on the sport board. Is fine, but I do think that. I have a lot of respect for people that stand up and show up at these sport board meetings and then go and then also give their feedback on the feedback because as I said, you and I have had this discussion and you're absolutely right. But that said, I appreciate anyone who puts in their feedback at the end of the year through that and then takes it up to the sport board.
So I think for sure the commitment is that we'll definitely go back, and I know Thomas will go back. He's working on some things now, but we'll do our best is what we can commit to and try to improve that. Any question?
I was just going to say, feedback to you as best practices. I've been on the baseball board since 2012, and we've imposed something called board member on duty, where every night of the week we got a board member out there walking around, making sure the umps are covered, making sure they're okay. On the weekends, we assign 3. And it's part of our duty of being on the baseball board that's what we do. We're out there at the fields. I got 3 kids, and I can tell you it's not always the most convenient thing because I also am coaching. My kids are playing different sports, not just baseball, but soccer or whatever. But I'm out there when I need to be. And that's something that maybe needs to be looked at. And not just because you all are so big, it may not just be that the soccer board members need to be out there, but also parents need to work. Yeah.
Definitely a good
And
time.
Thomas is doing amazing. It's nothing against that. I just want to say as a whole, where are we looking back? Because it's
That's why we're here. We want to hear your feedback. We want to know how we can improve it and prioritize. And this is what's great about having all the different sports, because you can talk, the baseball guys say, hey, this is what we do, and this may be something that will be very helpful. Any other questions this evening? Yes.
I attended a LTYA board meeting last summer, and there was a lot of talk about a conflict of interest with the person serving as treasurer. Can you give us the facts on that, and how did that resolve itself?
Yeah, so Scott, I don't know if you want to help me on this one, but so we do have Keith Whitten is our treasurer who recently, about a year ago, purchased a soccer club in San Antonio. We talked about the conflict of interest. Was there a conflict of interest? What is the concern? His program is in San Antonio. Our program is here in Lakeway. And at the time, the board unanimously agreed that we did not feel like there was a conflict of interest at the time, but it's certainly something that we'll look at as his program grows and our program grows. But right now, we're comfortable with that arrangement. Any other questions? Now's the opportunity. Yes?
Tell me how the sports specific boards are decided. I think as a parent,
I don't know for soccer board.
How they're decided.
Yeah, I'm gonna let,
Well,
Scott, I'm gonna let you touch base on that because I think you'll, deliver.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and there's not a simple policy in place. I think that's why you saw one of the line items up there to improve that. But in general, the sports recruit, if you will. They recruit people to fill them. I think baseball is probably the most functional sport we have. I think we have 19 board members there, and so if somebody's there and somebody says, "Hey, I want to leave the organization," right? The standing joke is you can't leave until you've identified your successor, and normally that's done over a course of 3 to 6 months. Baseball does have bylaws and a constitution, although technically it's a sub-board. LTYA is the only recognized entity. Quite honestly, historically, we haven't had enough volunteers. We've reached out, soccer reached out a number of years ago, right, looking for people. I sense in the community with everybody that's out here now, that maybe we'll get more people involved in the sports because we need that, and that will be one of the initiatives to put in operating procedures on each of the sports, which then will determine, how are boards elected, what are their terms, how are the officers done, etc. But right now within our organization, I think baseball is probably the only one that does that. Soccer.
So the way that we work within soccer is we're elected by people who vote in soccer or that have a kid in soccer. So last year, Steve Johnson, who was the existing soccer commissioner president, sent out emails to everyone that had a child in soccer in the last 12 months, and they were asked to come out and vote. Number one, put your name in the hat, and then number two, vote. I think there were 9 or 10 people that showed up. This last month, I did that. Again, we had this opportunity to bring in 2 more positions. So actually, Brian, who was just here, we added him in one. And then we have an open position still for Commissioner of Rep, which I get to fill. But that email went out to the entire select community, academy, and soccer. And I think we had, outside of the soccer board, maybe 10 people show up.
Softball reaches out. Terry, right? You reach out to your entire group. How many people do you get to respond?
No one. We basically have to go and beg people to come and join the board. We usually had 7 for several years. We went down to 3. We have 4 now, and that's like one of my big initiatives for the summer is to get more help.
Was there a specific sport?
No, I was just curious.
So-
Some seem like they're more organized than others.
Yeah, and I think that's, we touched a little bit about the operating procedures, and what we want to do is have it, so when we're asked that question, we can ask any of the sports, and it's very similar, right? And I think that's the goal, and not just with voting for boards, but some other of the operating policies too. It's a goal. It's something that's we intend to complete this year. So it's a very good question.
I mean, as an example, last year I ran basketball by myself, right? 785 kids over a 4-month period of time, and we're fortunate there because we have UIL officials. And we have a volunteer actually that coordinates the officials, so I guess technically not by myself, but all the practice schedules and game schedules. So we're happy to have Chris on board. So it's a sport by sport. We probably have to tune it up a little bit. But if we tune it up a little bit, we need participation. There's no sense in spending a lot of resource to it to have nobody come out.
Any other questions?
All right. Okay. Oh, well, I'll try. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank everybody for voting. We had, what did we count, 165?
165
ballots, 428 votes. We went through it twice. We found one error and corrected it. So it's good to go through it twice. I want to thank Keith for helping with the count and for helping with the collecting of the votes. I want to thank Karina and Whitney as well for collecting the votes. I want to thank our independent observers too keeping us honest. I appreciate that, making sure we have a good process. We're all about process, Scott. So, but at any rate, without any further ado, I want to congratulate the 3 nominees who won the election tonight for LTYA board member: Jeff Johnson, Duncan Clough, and Melanie Lockhart. Congratulations.
Again, thank you everybody for coming out and voting, and thank you personally for your support. We're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. We are entering into a normal LTYA parent board meeting. Anybody is welcome to stay to hear what we're discussing. But other than that, again, thank you. Super turnout. It just shows that there's a lot of interest. And again, if you did not make the board, please, by all means, reach out to us. I heard a lot of expertise, a lot of experience here. We'd love to create maybe some committees, and I think we could even have you guys chair those, or girls chair those committees, so you have a piece of ownership, which I know is sometimes what we all strive for. So again, thank you for coming out. We're going to take a few minutes to rearrange the tables and chairs, and again, you're welcome to stay and participate in our normal board activities.